Hello, everyone. Today I'm very excited about our 11th interview from the ToolSense interview series Workshop Talks. I'm Jennifer and responsible for communication at ToolSense. Our guest today is David Hiersche, Director Operations Performance at ISS Austria. And then, of course, I would like to introduce Alexander Manafi, CEO and co-founder of ToolSense. Mr. Hiersche, perhaps you could tell us a few sentences about yourself and ISS Austria.
Yes, of course. I joined ISS back in 2009 in the controlling department, then going to operations and now being responsible for operations performance. So it's a long career for 13 years. But when we take all the leading members in ISS, I'm still a rookie. Our CEO is with ISS for almost 40 years. So that's more than impressive. When it comes to ISS Austria is the market leader in Austria for facility management and facility service solutions. We provide as our main services and key services, cleaning services, food services, and technical services. Those are our three main lines with leading companies all over Austria.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Hiersche, how did you become aware of ToolSense in the first place?
Well, it was a funny aspect. We joined once the We Accelerate platform, where we got introduced into ToolSense, and almost in the same period of time, we were addressed by one of the commercial guys of Alexander's team, and therefore we had two approaches, but it was still one outcome. So we wanted to get in touch with ToolSense and try to challenge them how they can help us, how they can provide us a good solution for all our topics.
Very interesting. And what was the status quo in equipment management at ISS Austria before ToolSense? And how do you think will ToolSense improve the processes?
Yeah, well, we had several workflows in place. So we had a centralized database for our asset management, say that way, where we tracked all our machines from a, let's say, simple status. Do they exist? Are they leasing machines or are they owned by ISS? And ToolSense gave us the possibility to say, okay, we take this whole topic for a broader, or take it from a broader perspective, saying, okay, we want to have more data from our machines, saying, okay, we want to track them via GPS tracker, via LoRa sensor, via Bluetooth token, or any other of these IoT mechanics. We also wanted to include other assets, not only the cleaning machines. We also want to include kitchen equipment. We also want to include mechanical tools, or like tools like screwdrivers and all this topic. And we wanted to have a solution where it's not only worth tracking expensive machines, we also wanted to track cheap ones, because it's not always the price which gives you the trigger. It's also the amount and the volume of machines you have in place. And in Austria, we have about 6,500 cleaning machines in place, but we have multiple vacuum cleaners. We do have a lot of kitchen equipment. We do have a lot of technical equipment.
Yeah, that makes totally sense. And Mr. Hiersche, how does ToolSense help you perform maintenance and inspections for the equipment?
ToolSense gives us, despite what we had in our operations right now, give us the possibility to include this very important topic, having those regular maintenance reports, having these yearly checks included in one system. And this is one of the key factors where we said, okay, yes, we need another solution. We need a more standardized solution, perhaps, and we need a very flexible solution, so also to include other topics as well and other assets.
And where do you see the economic advantages in using ToolSense?
I guess the economic advantage is that we can track any kind of machine, any kind of asset, and we will also go and track our personal protective equipment over ToolSense, which gives us a very good platform for a lot of topics which have not had the level of importance in a company. because personal protective equipment need to be checked on a yearly basis, but they are so cheap, mainly they are so cheap that it's perhaps not worth for checking them every year, and therefore we often replace them. But with ToolSense now we can really check and really have a report on, are those equipments still in use? Can we use them? Do we need to replace it? It's also a topic of sustainability. And therefore we decided to go for ToolSense.
And maybe now the question directed to Alexander, what would you want to add here?
I'm so in general, what we see and with most of our partners is that there's typically something already in place. Whether it's in case of SS, let's say a database, whether it's Excel lists, we have customers that have basically paper forms where they just keep everything written in track. So, but there's typically always something in place. But what we also see is that there's a lot of other different systems and processes that run, let's say, in parallel, whether it's phone calls, WhatsApp messages, emailing back and forth. So that's typically the status quo. And what our approach is that we basically consolidate all of those parallel streams and also sometimes opaque systems and bring them into one central consolidated platform where we digitize not only the assets, but what for us is most important, the processes around the assets. Because this is where we can really see a lot of time savings, a lot of cost saving as well, and digitize everything there. And then on top of that, and this is where we see the big opportunity, is add new technologies like IoT, whatever technology makes economic sense. And then this is where we can really also start automating processes that before basically were a lot of phone calls, maybe finding out where stuff is, finding out if stuff is utilized. And now basically where we are heading, it's the push of a button. And everybody's on the same page, is a central system, and where the equipment basically creates also an objective point of truth. Yeah.
Thank you. And Mr. Hiersche, why did you choose ToolSense and not a solution from a specific supplier?
I guess the reason is a quite simple one. ToolSense gives us the possibility to track everything, as explained before. So we can track from personal protective equipment over technical assets to kitchen assets and cleaning assets, everything. So we are not depending on someone or something. Even when you take the consideration with the IoT beacons or what they are ever called, we can use all of those equipment. So we really stay independent. The only dependency we have is the platform, but all the assets, everything else, can be chosen by us, and therefore we can work with established systems from our suppliers, as well with board IoT sensors from ToolSense or other suppliers as well.
That sounds good. And Alexander, how does ToolSense perform in cross-brand deployment?
I mean, first of all, I think what is important is we are manufacturer independent, so it's not a solution by one manufacturer for only these machines. So we are not selling equipment or maintaining equipment, so we are just, let's say, providing technology. So I think that's the first and a very important distinction, that we don't have any interest in anything in that regards. And then also from our side, an openness that we don't say you have to take our IoT device and that's the only thing that matters. No, in the end, for us, the hardware and the IoT is a means to an end. And where we want to go is help make the site managers' life easier and automate processes. And then whatever is already there, if it's an OEM system, if it's third-party hardware, we want to integrate. And so I think really important is being open and hardware agnostic. And so this is one key aspect. And then, of course, also on the platform level, that we can basically manage whatever, create unique processes for all kinds of equipment. And so also there, I think the key part is flexibility on a technological level.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Hiersche, what tips can you give other organizations when introducing digital equipment processes?
I guess the implementation phase seems to be very short, but when you implement ToolSense, and it was an experience we have made, is you touch so many touch points or so many connections in your existing system landscape that it really needs time to evaluate everything. Because it's only just adding an additional system into a let's say ISS suite, it is taking ToolSense, reviewing the processes, saying, okay, those are processes we can more or less outsource to ToolSense, and those are processes we do not have to keep anymore because they are no longer necessary. And therefore, it takes time, and it takes more time than expected to implement the tool.
Thank you very much for these tips. Then we already come to our last question. Mr. Hiersche, how do you assess the state of digitalization in the cleaning and facility service industry? And how are these topics likely to develop over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, there are many initiatives currently in place, but there is still room for improvement. And I think the harder thing is where is the investment and where is the benefit, even the commercial benefit or the economic benefit in. Because when a cleaning company needs to invest into sensors, into cleaning solutions, whatever, the customer not usually wants to pay more for the service, but they expect the cleaning company to have more IoT solutions in place. And therefore, there is, on the one hand, there is a lot of different tools on the market. There are limited proof cases where it works. And I think that's the reason to say, yes, there is still room for improvement, but it is definitely something, what we can say, technology will never replace our people. It will help and it will support our people, but it will never replace the people.
Nicely said. Alexander, would you like to add anything here?
Yeah, I mean that's also what we are trying to do is basically help free up the people from administrative and annoying tasks so that they can, focus on creating value for the customers. And I do see that yeah, digitization is, I think, increasing adoption in the facility service industry right now. But what I also think is that because facility service has quite high cost pressure compared to other industries, I think also there it's like um, double or like really important that it makes economic sense. And so there's less of playing around or like, let's say, wasteful spending just because it's cool than in other industries. But also that's a good thing, yeah, because then really the things that make economic sense and help enable people, they get also done quicker from our experience.
Then we already reached the end. Thank you very much for this exciting exchange. I was very pleased that you, Mr. Hiersche, were here today. And perhaps we will hear from you again soon.
Thank you.